Art with a capital F, or fart for short. Feces in gaseous form. Society without true art. Okay, this talks about culture industry and the idiot culture and how we have lost all connection with the quest after beauty in general and art as a solution to that quest in particular. Society without true art. When you have no art, you have no taste. When you have no taste, you have no judgment. When you have no judgment, men with true wisdom about life will not develop or appear. Without wisdom to guide it, a society is dead in the womb, or not long thereafter. Decorative, here's a few random notes. Decorative art. Change the way you see. Time suspends. Experience of pure vision. Abstract expressionism. Painted feelings and reactions. Absolute music expresses pure musical form. These are some descriptions of real art, the way it used to be when we had real art. The Academy Awards in Hollywood are the heart and soul of the idiot culture. Create an attitude-aptitude scale to measure receptivity to beauty. This is a project a social science experiment that I want to do. I want to put together scales that can measure how important art and beauty and composition in general, pictorial composition or sound competition, composition and sound are to an individual. The motion picture is a technological discovery, but the cinema is an art form. The French invented cinema as an art form. Art with a capital F, or fart for short, or feces in gaseous form. The absolute, true, final death of art. Our civilization is no longer capable of producing art. In fact, artist is an obsolete term, along with poet, composer, philosopher, and honest man. Instead, we produce what I have come to refer to as art with a capital F, or fart for short. That's not art, that's fart. We have artificial art and corporate art, while our pseudo-artist poseurs claim that everything is art and wonder aloud who gets to call it art. In the late modern era, a dichotomy developed between high culture versus folk culture. Folk culture is authentic, legitimate art. It's just not high art. It's just not something that is organized around an ideology about how art should produce or what art should do, what its function is, and then delivered in the form of a manifesto or several manifesti announcing the beginning of a new school. It could be a new school in jazz, say, like the free jazz movement or the bebop movement, or in painting, it could be Impressionism or Expressionism or Post-Impressionism or German Expressionism, on and on and on. High culture is organized like that. Folk culture erupts spontaneously from people who know nothing about the history of art, or at least high art in general, and just want to express artistic feelings with a folk song, say. Greensleeves. Greensleeves, to me, is possibly the most beautiful melody ever composed, and it's been taken by high art artists like Ralph. Oh fuck! I lost the name. Sorry. It's been taken by high artists and developed upon and expanded into something bigger, but the pure melody line itself is beautiful. And this wasn't created by anyone with any knowledge of high art or art music, just out of pastoral folk culture in Britain. This inevitability, Ralph Vaughan Williams took the Greensleeves melody and he turned it into almost a symphony orchestra, a one movement symphony, or better yet, a tone poem about Greensleeves. This inevitably developed into a clash between high culture versus popular culture. Folk culture evolved into pop culture once we had mass masses and mass culture and means of mass communication. There was still some authenticity, originality, and/or integrity to what was going by the name art. Since that time, popular culture has eclipsed high culture completely. Subsequently, popular culture morphed into mass culture. Mass culture morphed into true, legitimate culture industry into bona fide idiot culture, and that finally congealed into what we have today, which I refer to as dumpster culture or masturbatory entertainment. We have arrived. Who needs art anyway? We have cars. Mass culture moguls, pushers perfectly happy to feed people sicknesses. We give the people what they want. This is what liars always say. Quotas and affirmative action for the Nobel Prize. I mean, all these prizes are just total bullshit now. I mean, it's about quotas, it's about political correctness, it's been totally politicized, socialized into something bullshit, not art for art's sake, which is what literature is supposed to be about. Notice how no women or non-Europeans win in the hard sciences, where objective criteria determine who wins. But they're giving, in literature and in peace, they're giving all kinds of undeserving people prizes. I've made a list. It might be at the end of this, or I might have to do a video of it at a later date, on all the great writers of the 20th century since the invention of the Nobel Prize in Literature, who have not even been considered for it. I mean, the greatest writers of the 20th century. I mean, James Joyce, Franz Kafka, many more are on this list. People who never even made the final list or whatever. Notice that. So what's going on is really sick, sad, and pathetic. I mean, they've totally destroyed these prizes. All the prizes, MacArthur, Grant, all these things are all politicized bullshit. And you can't pretend to non-biased objectivity and honest fair-mindedness. Dig out all slides about awards, etc., and put in here. Sorry, that was a note to myself. Notion of anti-art, the opposite of art, the reverse of art, the absence of art. Rap music is the most horrendous, worst example today of anti-art, in that it is music that is really anti-music. It doesn't contain elements of music besides rhythm and really, really bad verse. The sonata is the ultimate form of musical expression. Since music is the queen of the arts, the highest form of artistic expression human beings have ever created, the greatest achievement of the human mind is the sonata. Is anybody writing sonatas today? Is John Cage's Radio Symphony really in sonata form? Has George Crumb ever penned a bona fide sonata on any instrument or combination of instruments thereof? Beauty is dead for these people, unless it's useful as a pose. They don't respond to the beauty, they respond to the fame of the artists. The devolution of art into design. Too much descriptive detail, which does not enlighten us about the narrator. Not enough dialogue. Genre fiction sucks. Devolution of European art and culture. High culture versus folk culture. High culture versus popular culture. Popular culture versus mass culture. Mass culture versus culture industry. Culture industry morphs into legitimate idiot culture. Idiot culture eventually degenerates into idiot culture pollution, which is what we have going today. We are trying to create something of beauty here. That's Misha in the movie The Red Shoes. Great moment. Fart. Resentment in art. What we have today is people who are actually producing art that is expressing resentment towards high art. It's like idiot culture art or dumpster culture art, which is actually making a statement that it hates high art or real art and attacks it. All right, you see these. They have this postmodern architecture, which should better be referred to as post-mortem architecture, is actually constantly expresses resentment of the greatest works of architecture, which are Greek temples and Germanic Gothic cathedrals. They are balanced. They are Apollonian. They are perfectly organized. They express simplicity. Sometimes, like some cathedrals, simplicity and complexity at the same time. So what a lot of these, I'll get to it below in more detail, but a lot of what these people are doing now is they make buildings that are like half finished, right? It's like they leave, or it's it's so far warped, it's so far out of balance that it can be viewed as warped. And this is specifically designed as a resentment-inspired attack on Greek temples and Greek sculpture. A new form of art has formed in the last few hundred years, which I call commiseration art. We have had several hundred years now of commiseration art, as opposed to pro-life works of art like ancient Greek or Italian Renaissance sculpture, or self-knowledge promoting art, such as Shakespeare's tragedies. Art that attempts to make people more empathic or sympathetic or more compassionate, especially toward the disadvantaged, the poor, the weak, and victims, is life-denying and decadence-involving. I'm sorry I lost my place. Sorry. Commiseration art. A description. We have had several hundred years now of commiseration art, as opposed to pro-life works of art like ancient Greek or Italian Renaissance sculpture, or self-knowledge promoting art such as Shakespeare's tragedies. Art that attempts to make people more empathic or sympathetic or more compassionate, especially toward the disadvantaged, the poor, the weak, and victims, is life-denying and decadence-involving. I'm sorry, and decadence-evolving. That's what it helps decadence develop. They work in a symbiotic relationship. If a society no longer believes in victims or victimhood, it will not produce commiseration art. Commiseration art has caused a degeneration in us to total idiot culture / culture industry pollution. Art structured around pity and empathy. Disease humanist art versus healthy inhumanist art. Michelangelo is just a beginning, a hint. Inhumanist art. Art that creates image of how life could be after straining, struggling, and questing. In other words, in humanist art, this kind of art describes a struggle, a quest, an agon. The struggle that someone gets through and then in the end becomes much, much stronger through that process. King Arthur and Arthurian legend, the literature and other works of art around King Arthur and Arthurian legend, the Laocoon sculpture from ancient Greece. Celebratory art celebrates superior life and the struggle for excellence. Art that inspires humans to vie against the gods themselves. The gods of Greece are cruel. Someday men will learn to live without them. Apollonius of Rhodes and Alan Beverly Cross, who took the quote from Apollonius and added it into the dialogue in the film Jason the Argonauts, which is like one of these Greek, mythology movies that I saw when I was a very young kid and had a lasting impression on me, among many other movies, songs, and works of art that had a big impression on me when I was a young kid. Our diseased humanist art engenders sympathy, mutual self-pity designed to soften and weaken rather than strengthen and harden. Mutual commiseration, for example, a movie like Patch of Blue. I love A Patch of Blue, and I don't think that A Patch of Blue is the best example of commiseration art, because it's a beautiful story with a beautiful ending, and it really is designed not just to produce empathy that weakens, but a rare occurrence, produce empathy that strengthens, right? But I brought it up as an example out of my head when I was writing this PowerPoint, because it was the first thing that comes to mind. Because a lot of people watched the movie and felt sorry for Negroes in the 60s and became more and more conciliatory toward their goals, which were not good, healthy goals, either for our society in general or for their subculture in particular. Some art should make people empathize with the plight of others, but to push them to overcome those plights, not to accept them. Culture industry versus idiot culture. Culture industry has consumed all forms of postmodern culture and is now in the final stage, degenerating into pure idiot culture. There was a time when culture industry made a pretense to highbrow, high culture, high art, serious culture, but that is finished. The typical American's mind is like a giant, bottomless garbage dumpster. The idiot culture pours a never-ending flow of slime, sludge, and slag into the bottomless pits of Americans' minds. The horror, idiot culture. The horror of idiot culture. The horror of it all is that after successfully absorbing all of Western civilization's productions, from high art to low art, the idiot culture is about to branch out geographically, like an endless lava flow from a volcanic mountain of recycled muck. The idiot culture will soon possess the entire globe. I mean, it has. I mean, it's funny with this rap shit, because every single third world country has a fully developed rap music industry. Why? Because it's such low art, idiot culture art, extending the term art beyond its capacity to signify or to represent, because any fucking retarded idiot can do it. Any fucking monkey-brained retard can do rap. That's the popularity. That's what it's all about. Because everybody gets to think they're an original rap artist. The Death of Art. Donald Cuspit, The End of Art. It's a book by Donald Cuspit. Ideas of Arthur C. Danto, professor of philosophy at Columbia University, or at least he used to be. That's one of the reasons I originally, when I was applying to different universities, I eventually went to Cal, but I applied to Columbia University in part because I wanted to study with Danto. Everything is art means nothing is art. The Bindlestiff Circus. I had a girlfriend who took me to see this idiocy one time. This girlfriend of mine from years back, went to Harvard. She went to Harvard, and she thinks the Bindlestiff Circus was wonderful. They had people blowing up birthday party balloons by farting into them. No lie. Okay. We watched. She took me to the Bindlestiff Circus, and she considers it to be art. She considers it to be either the tradition of guerrilla theater, or what was in the 60s they had happenings. You know, it's kind of like a guerrilla theater happening. She thinks it's theater. That's how sophisticated women are who graduate from Harvard, I guess. They had people blowing up birthday party balloons by farting into them. They considered this to be very advanced avant-garde theater. I don't think it was as beautiful as Robert Mapplethorpe's photograph series of pooftas and butthole surfers squeezing their fists up into upper people's anuses. Cirque du Soleil. You know, I mean, when it originally came out, it was just entertainment. You know, I mean, people went to see it. It was kind of like dance in the air, if you wanted to be artsy fartsy, which is not as accurate. More accurate would be just like a circus, kind of like. But of course, retards, maybe some of them graduated from Harvard or Yale or Princeton or whatever, or Cal, decided it was also expression of it was a form of artistic expression. I mean, farting can be a form of artistic expression, right? But that doesn't make it real art, and it certainly doesn't make it a work of beauty. Anyway, Thank you for your indulgence and for listening.